recruit them. My team recruited them. And this morning we're going to spend some time talking about building a company. So do me a favor, stand up real quick. Don't stand. You don't know what. Stand up if you join this company. You're like, I just want to go sell life insurance for the rest of my life. No. Okay. How about if you said I want to build a massive company and then not have to work again for the rest of my life? Okay. So that's why I started here. I got recruited here at 21. And I had no background in finance, no background in insurance. The only background I had in sales was selling gym memberships, and I don't know if you guys have it here, and a company called Cutco. You guys have that here? Okay. So that was my first sales job ever, door to door selling kitchen knives, and I loved it. I'll be honest, I loved it. I was really good at it, and their comp plan isn't that great. And I didn't make any money, so I quit. And my entire life wanted to be an attorney, and I just didn't want to go to school. Because in high school, I hated school. I'm going to be honest, I hated school. I love to learn now. In high school, all I wanted to do was play sports. So I didn't go to law school because I didn't want to go to college. So instead, I became a firefighter paramedic. And I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. And that was my dream job, and I loved it. It was a blast. And I got recruited into WFG by my father, who's a pastor at a church, and he's been a pastor at a church my entire life. Anybody in here a pastor? No? All right, well. Most of them are broke, so it's probably not the best market. I'll be honest. My dad was broke. My mom's a teacher. Anybody a teacher? All right, they're broke too, so you guys are doing well. We got 2 broke teachers here in the front. I'm going to be honest, my parents always struggled with money. They were real bad with money. But as a kid, we had everything we wanted. So every Christmas, there was tons and tons of gifts under the tree. And every birthday, we got everything we wanted. And then I found out as I grew up that my parents charged all of that on credit card debt. And that's how we had everything we wanted. It was all credit cards. So when I got recruited, when I signed my AMA, my membership agreement with the company in April of 2011, my mom and dad had $72,000 in credit card debt. And they had lost their house, and they had filed bankruptcy, and they were broke. And my dad was working like 2 to 3 jobs. He was pastoring all day. He was driving town cars for wealthy people to the airport in the evening. And my mom was teaching, and then my mom was teaching summer school, and then she was teaching adult classes at college, and my parents were just trying to make it. And I was 21 years old. I had just lost my job, and my wife was in her master's program getting her master's degree in psychology. And so we had been married 6 months, and we had went from, I had a $91,000 salary down to unemployment, and we were living off my wife's financial aid. Basically is what was paying the bills. I never ever thought I would be in this company doing anything like this. So when I first showed up to the first BPM, they were talking about Rule 72 and showing all this money stuff, and I had no money. They were talking about 401ks. I thought it was a relay, like a marathon or something. And I didn't know anything, you guys, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't plan on doing any of this. Even the day I started, my dad said, I'll pay for your license, I'll pay for your background, I'll pay for your fingerprints, I'll pay for everything. I just want you to do this with me. Even that day, I didn't plan on this becoming a career for me. I just said, this is something I'll do for now until the fire department gives me a job, and then I'll go back to the fire department. I started in business, and a guy who sat down and did my fast start or my orientation, he said, okay, you're 21, you're broke, I don't think anyone's going to take you seriously. So what I need you to do is I need you to bring at least 3 guests to the meeting tomorrow. How many of you guys have ever been told anything about bringing a guest to a meeting? I'm assuming you guys do something like that. Okay, he said, if you can't show up with 3 guests, then that tells me everything I need to know about you. And I said, well, what does that mean? What is the everything you need to know? He said, if you're in 21 years of your life, you can't get 3 people to show up tomorrow, that means no one takes you seriously, you have no credibility, and you're going to be a waste of my time, and I'm not going to train you. And so I said, can I only bring 3? And he said, why don't we just start with 3? I said, okay, 3 it is. So I'll tell you what I did. I went home that day, and I called my buddy Victor. And Victor's mom and dad had a 15-passenger van. And I said, Vic, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to put on a suit. And he's like, I don't own a suit. I said, okay, well, go get a suit. And then I need you to be at my house at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And he said, well, what are we doing? I said, just be at my house. I need your help. I said, bring your mom's van. And I called 10 of my friends, and I said, hey, I need you to do me like the favor of a lifetime. What are you doing tomorrow morning? And they're like, oh, nothing. Why? What are we going to do? What do you want to do? I said, okay, throw on a suit, be at my house at 8 a.m. And 10 of my friends showed up. They all showed up to my house because I made sure they showed up. This was a big deal. This was something I was serious about. They all showed up. We all went to the office in the 15-passenger van together. And I told every single one of them, I said, listen, when you get in there, you're going to meet this guy who owns this office. This dude's making $50,000 a month. A month, not a year, a month. And I said, I don't want any of you to say anything stupid. Don't ask any stupid questions. And don't act like you know anything, because we're all stupid and broke. So don't try to make yourself look good. I said, I just need you to go in there and make me look good. And they're like, okay, yeah, dude, I got you. And I said, and at the end of it, if they, for some reason, fall for your crap and they offer you an interview, you better take it. And if they give you a position, man, you better freaking start, because it's a chance of a lifetime. And none of us belong here. And they're like, okay, for sure. And that day I got 10 recruits. But it was only my first day in the business, so I don't know what I was doing. So after the meeting, everyone signs their $100. We all go back to the van, and everyone looks at each other and goes, so what just happened? And I said, I don't know either, but y'all made me look really good. And then by the time we got back to the house, everybody quit, and they had all made a $100 donation to WFG, and that was the end of it, and I showed up the next week with no teammates because everybody quit. So it wasn't this amazing start, but that day was the beginning of my career. That day was the beginning of what I now know, right, an entire different direction for my life and for my family's life. My dad overrides me still to this day about $40,000 to $50,000 a month. And my parents are debt free, and my parents are retired, and they live in a beautiful $2 million home, and they drive brand new cars, and life is completely different. Why? Because of this company. That's why I love this company. I'm going to go through a couple of things with you guys on building a company, because I think that's the goal. Whenever I do a talk like this, I try to plan for what I would want to know if I was brand new. Like if this was my first day, if this was that first meeting I showed up to, what would I want someone to tell me? That would try to make this thing go faster for me. How many of you guys want to go faster? How many of you feel like you've been here long enough and you're going way too slow? Okay, that's probably your fault, but we'll see if there's anything that we can do today that can help. Because you can show up to meetings for 20 years, and if you do nothing, it's not going to get you anywhere. But just like you can go to the gym, but if you don't work out at the gym, if you just sit there and you're the guy who texts the whole time on the machine, that's not going to do you any good. But I'll tell you, man, I really love this company. I love what this company has done for my family. I got a call when I was standing over there 10 minutes ago from my assistant that I had a client die this morning. And it's a client who's been a client of mine for 11 years. He's only 37. We don't know how. She saw it she's logged into my account. She saw it on Facebook, that he died this morning. He had $1 million in life insurance. He was single with no kids. We still don't know what happened or why. But that's my 7th death benefit this year, or in the last 12 months. The first 12 years of my career, nobody died. And I was like, it's bound to happen eventually. Like, I don't want it to happen, but it's bound to happen eventually. And then just this year, 7, 4 of them were teammates. One of them was my best friend. And then we had a 12-year-old girl who died last week. She was, her mom had set up, what we call $1 million baby fund. And so she had $400,000 of life insurance. 12 years old, she was playing in the front yard. And her soccer ball went out in the street. And she ran out in the street, and there was a 16-year-old kid going 60 miles an hour down the side street. And ran her over last week. That family, by the way, is dirt broke. They ain't got, the 400,000 is 12 years old, they're only putting $75 a month, right? The family has nothing. The mom's on government assistance. But 9 years ago, when the kid was 3, she opened an account. And then this gentleman who passed away this morning. You want to know what's crazy? Out of all 7, only one of them was over 50. Just one. That's it. And he was only 50. He was 50 on the dot. And so I love what we do. I love what we do for clients. I came from a family that all my grandparents had passed away by the time I got in business. Only one of my grandparents had life insurance, and it was only $50,000. It wasn't $1 million, it wasn't $10 million. But you want to know what's funny is I know my grandparents would have all bought life insurance if someone sat with them. Like, I have zero doubt in my mind. They bought everything else. I know they would have bought this. They were all in debt. They were all professionals, nurses and teachers, all 4 of them. None of them had life insurance outside of the $50,000 that my grandma had from her job. So I look at my family and I go, if someone had sat with my parents or my grandparents 25 years sooner, even from a rinky-dink company that sells overpriced term insurance, 25 years sooner, it would have changed everything for my family. Now, I'm grateful because the one thing that changed everything for my family was the day that I got recruited in the business. So I was one of 2 recruits my dad has ever had. He recruited me and he recruited my mom. And he couldn't even get my brother in the business. My brother said no. He recruited me, he recruited my mom, and that was enough to change my family's life forever. And so the first thing I want you to know before we go through any content is if you're here, I kind of watched the room when I came in. Some of you guys are fired up. Some of you guys are excited to be here. Others of you guys, you look, I'm just going to assume you're sick. Maybe you got COVID or something. And if you did, don't share it with me. And then others of you guys, I can tell you didn't sleep last night because you're sleeping right now. That's fine. And then some of you guys, you're really engaged. By the way, that's normal. That's at every single meeting. By the way, I've attended meetings the same way. I sat through some meetings where I was like, oh my Lord, if this guy could do it, I know I can do it. This is the worst presentation I've ever heard. And then there's other times when I was tired and you never know what someone's going through at that moment, right? Some of you are going through right now the best time of your life, and others of you, this is the worst period of your life in a long time. And just nobody else in the room knows it. And that's fine, because you're still here. Here's what I want you to know, though. If you do this right, this will change the next 20 years of your life. And you could feel a difference in 6 months. Literally like that. In 6 months, you could feel a huge difference if you do this right. It does not have to take you 20 years to get the benefit. I'm talking like in 90 days, you could already be out of debt. And you could leave your job. If you do this right. Some of you've done a million things before this, and you're doing a million things still right now. You got a job, you got a real estate license, you think you're a freaking day trader, and you're trading stocks every morning, or whatever you guys do in Canada, and you're driving Uber on the side, but nobody knows it, but you're doing it because you need to pay your bills, you're doing it as a secret. I'll tell you a funny story. One of my SMDs, about 15 months ago, he was driving. Do you guys have like Instacart here? Yeah, okay, so we had Instacart. So my wife, we don't go to the grocery store anymore, we just Instacart every single time. And we get an Instacart delivery, and my wife answers the door, and it's my SMD delivering our groceries. And he tells me, he goes, man, I got the name, it said Veronica, it was the same city, and the person responding the whole time was really nice, thank God, right? My wife, thank God she's very polite. Imagine if she wasn't. And he's like, and I just knew it. I was like, oh no. He's like, and we had just moved. We had just bought a new house, and so no one had been there yet. We had been there a week. And he's like, I just knew it. I was like, this is Jay and Ronnie's house. I know it. And he's looking at the address. He's like, yeah, it makes sense. He gets to the community. It's a gated community. He's like, yep, this is a community. And he said he thought about just dropping the groceries off and leaving without ever showing his face. He's like, but he said, nope, I got to own this moment, right? And this is going to be the most embarrassing moment for me, but I got to do it. He knocked on the door, and she answered the door. She's like, Frank, what are you doing? He's like, I know, business has been hard for me, right? And then she calls me right away. She's like, Frank is our Instacart delivery guy today. I was like, our SMD, Frank? She's like, yeah, what the heck? We need to help him. I was like, yeah, I got you. I actually see him coming out of the community, and I was pulling in at the same time. So I helped him out by making it worse. I rolled down the window. I was like, Frank, I could hire you full time, bro, if you're looking, to do groceries every day. And he's like, oh, come on, coach. But hey, here's why I tell you this story. 12 months later, Frank's at 200,000 in income. 200,000 right now. So when I say, like, if you do this right, like, this could be the event that changes your whole life. No motivational speech, pure facts. You could learn something in this event that could snap you out of whatever funk you're in, and the next 90 days could be the setup for it, and 6 months from now, your whole life could be different. Or you could sit here and go home and go right back to whatever you're doing. And that's what happens for 90% of the room every event. So let's go through a couple things that I think will help. Building a team culture. I'll see, my slides will pop up. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. Let's see. Okay, so the recipe of a team culture. Raise your hand if you want a big team. Okay, keep your hand up if you're like, I've already thought of what I'm going to name it. I thought of the team colors. I can see it in my head. I know where my office is going to be. My team's going to be fired up. I know I can do it 10 times better than my coach is doing it, right? That's what everyone thinks. That's cool. That's cool. I used to sit in the back of a bowling alley when I would go bowling every week, and I would think about what I was going to name my team someday, and what I wanted it to look like, and the type of culture and environment that I wanted, and I used to just dream about it, and the difference is I put feet to it and I made it happen. Over and over again. Okay, stand up if you have less than 5 teammates in the room with you. Be honest. There ain't no way you all have more than 5. Otherwise we wouldn't fit. Alright, so if you're standing up right now, stay standing. See, some of y'all are tired. If you're standing up right now, so you got less than 5, so you're basically starting from 0. Right? Okay, sit down. Stand up if you got more than 20 teammates in the room with you. We got only 3, 4. All right, cool. Stay standing if you got more than 50. More than 50 in the room with you. Only 3. All right. All right, more than 100?
More than 100.
Okay, good. Oh, one person. One's got more than 100. All right, so you want to know what that means? If I'm in the room, I go, okay, that means I can catch anybody here. Because 100's not that far away. I used to sit in Dan's meeting and go, so now you know that gentleman right there, he's number 1 in the room. In the gray jacket there. So I used to sit in the meeting with Dan and go, hey, I'm going to freaking make it. I'm going to get big. And you want to know what I didn't have? I was 21, so half my top 100 list was like 17. I didn't even do it right. I had a bunch of like kids. You know, in the United States at least, you got to be 18 to code. I think it's the same here, right? I had a bunch of 17-year-olds on my list. So two things were true. That, number one, my trainer was really bad, and he didn't make sure that everyone on my list was over 18. And number two, my market was really bad. I was putting down people in high school. They were walking out of class to answer the call. That's how bad my first 30 days was. But I used to sit in there and I learned one thing my first event. One thing. I showed up 3 days after that first BPM to a Super Saturday. I sat in the back of the room and they did the whole day. It was 8 hours long. It wasn't that great. The speakers weren't that great. And the very last speaker was a guy named Nick Helwani. He was like 5'2" from Syria. He looked like Penguin from Batman, or The Godfather, whatever. And he got in front of the room and he's like, "You have to build a team." Real serious, like you can picture him like smoking a cigar while he said it. And I was like, "Oh, okay, build a team. All right, you gotta build a team. Build a team." And he's like, "Did you hear me? You have to build a team." I'm like, "All right, got it. Write it again. Build a team." And then he went on and he did this whole thing, how you could come into business and be a really good producer and write a bunch of points, or you could come into business and build a team. And I sat in the back of the room and I said, okay, I don't have anybody to sell policies to, so I'm going to build a team. And that day I said, if that's all I got to do, I'm going to make it. And then he said something else. He said, if you build a team, then you could catch and pass anybody if you just have a bigger team. And so I was like, all right, build a team, you could catch and pass anybody. And you want to know something? I took that to heart. For the rest of my career, 13 years later, 12 years later, you want to know the only thing I think about? Building a team. So just to give you perspective, we're averaging right now, we license in my hierarchy about 35 to 40 people a month. Brand new agents that get recruited and licensed, 35 to 40 people a month. We are with a 60% net recruit or net license ratio. So the last 6 months we've licensed like 150 people, and we have 80 net licenses, which means 80 of them have made over $1,000 already. So over 50%. You want to know what I'm not focused on? Selling policies or trying to go write big apps or anything like that. All I'm focused on is if I can license 1 to 2 people a day. Now, are you going to go from 0 teammates in the room to licensing 2 people a day? No, not necessarily. But this whole talk, my goal and my hope and my prayer for you is that you could start to get the foundation so you can start to build momentum so that you can start to license maybe 1 to 2 or 3 people a month, and then maybe 1 to 2 people a week, and then maybe 1 to 2 people every couple days, and then eventually you can get to where you're licensing 1 to 2 people a day, and then that'll be just the beginning. Does that make sense? All right, cool. Okay, so let's talk about it. The recipe of a team culture. So number 1 is a culture of recruiting. That's number 1 in a recipe for a team culture. Now, what does culture mean? So I'll give you an example. Culture in society means what? Don't be shy. So like, how would you describe the culture of Vancouver, Canada? So like, I'm from Los Angeles. So if you think of Los Angeles, everybody's rude. There's a lot of homeless people. And then there's Hollywood, right? So when you think Los Angeles, you think Hollywood, celebrities, singers, actors, actresses, the Lakers. Now we got Ohtani, if you're a baseball person. So that's like the culture of Los Angeles. What's the culture here? I'm starting to think it's like Filipino. That's all I see. You said rain, the culture of rain. All right. So,
Philippines.
Green?
Polite.
Okay. What was it? Lululemon. That's the culture. All right. right? So, I got a question for you. Now, what's the culture in your team? Family, okay. But some families are broke, right? So we don't have broke family, right? So family, which means what? It's tight. Hopefully everybody loves each other, but family fights too, so maybe you guys fight a lot. Supportive, okay. Now, I want to ask you a question. Can you, in your team, I'm not talking about Vicky's team, I'm not talking about Teresa's team, I'm talking about in your team, is there a culture of recruiting? So my team is a culture of recruiting. If you go in any of my group chats, all day long, all they talk about is recruiting. All day long. Now I know some of you that you're up to date on the WFG trends and lingo. I know what you're thinking, well, but we're focused on licensing, not recruiting, right? But you can't license 10 people if you recruited 0. And so still, it's a culture of recruiting, because you're going to only license 30 to 40% of all your recruits anyways. So if you only recruit 10, you're going to license 3, and if you recruit 100, you're going to license 30. Who do you think is going to get to their goal faster? The person recruiting 100. I would rather recruit and license 30% of 100 than 30% of 5. So a culture of recruiting is the first thing. So for me, 12 years ago, broke at 21, I said, all right, I want to be able to compete. I cannot compete by myself because I don't have 500 Filipino nurses to call. So I'm like, I'm screwed, dude, unless I recruit. So a culture of a big team, a culture of a massive company is number one, a culture of recruiting. So those are some of my directs on top. They all have their rings. The guy on the far left, he was my detailer for my car. That's how I met him. He came to my office every Monday and detailed everybody's cars. We call him when we tell his story, we call him a luxury automotive detailer, but he was the guy who washed our car. He's a car wash guy. Okay. Now this is the first year he just qualified for Hawaii this year. And 6 years ago he was just washing cars. He was like 3 shades darker, like the guy next to him, because he was in the sun all day. And yeah, he was making okay money. He was making 60, 70 grand a year, but he was working 13 hours a day in the hot sun in Los Angeles where it doesn't rain, washing cars all day. The guy next to him is Elson. He was a teacher when I met him. And he's got his ring. And then the guy on the right side is another Sergio. He was going door to door selling internet and cable. And he knocked on our office door and said, do you guys have internet? What internet do you have? And then we recruited him, and now he's got his ring, and now he's another SMD on our team. The girl on the bottom left, that was my best friend who passed away this year. I told her story last night. She was on the team for about 18 months. She was at $330,000 in cash flow, just in a year and a half, and she came from Herbalife. So a culture of recruiting, I always put her picture there because she's the one who really changed our culture on our team. We went from recruiting 10 to 20 people a month to 75 to 150 a month when I recruited her. Here's one of the secrets for you, and put this in your notes. A lot of times we go, I can do 10 every month, but how the heck do I get to 100? I cannot figure out how to go from 10 to 100. I'm going to tell you how. I couldn't figure it out either until it just happened. And then I go, okay, now I know how it happened. You got to recruit people who love to recruit. Listen, people come into business, they're naturally one or the other. They're either a really good producer and they love producing and writing business, or they're a really good recruiter and they love recruiting. Most of the time, a lot of the time, you recruit someone really good at recruiting, but then everyone talks crap about them because they go, yeah, but they can't write any policies and they never make any money. You may think of someone in the room like that. You're like, yeah, they recruit, but they're never at the top in cash flow. And then you have other people who can write apps all day long, but they can't recruit. Everyone's naturally, in a lot of cases, gravitates towards one or the other. When I got here, I was a great recruiter. But I was never recognized for cash flow in the beginning. In fact, my wife one day, she goes, hey, this is cool, we get all these awards for recruiting. When are we going to get paid? You know what I said? I said, holy smokes, I never thought of that. I was so competitive and so fired up recruiting, it never crossed my mind I wasn't making any money. She's like, we need to make money. I'm like, okay, got it, I'll figure that out. Okay, so you recruit people who love to recruit, you will become a recruiting team. By the way, you may hate recruiting, that's fine, just recruit someone who's good at it. You may be bad at recruiting. That's not true, that's just your belief system. But that's fine, recruit someone who thinks they're good at it. You get a couple people on your team that want to recruit, and you will have a recruiting culture, and your whole business will change right away. So you go, well, how do I find people who want to recruit? I don't know. You just got to recruit. And when you're having recruiting conversations, talk about recruiting. Some people are going to get excited about it. Like Crystal came from Herbalife. She had 600 people on her team, and she was making $7,500 a month. And I was like, dude, if you had 600 people here, you would make $2.5 million. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah, your guys' comp plan sucks. And she'd been in Herbalife 10 years, so she was like, what do you mean our comp plan sucks? I was like, let me show you. She's like, yeah, it sucks, you're right. So you get a couple recruiters. How many guys consider yourselves a recruiter? You're like, I'm pretty good at it. Nobody? Only one? 2, 3, 4? I see a couple of you I recognize, probably from Instagram. 5? Okay, so if you're a recruiter, and we can put your recruiting numbers up on the screen right now? Yes? And you'd be proud of them? I hope so. Okay, remember, you're going to license only 30 to 40%. So if you're only recruiting 2 or 3, you're screwed. You're going to be doing this for a long time. I was at Tiger School. I don't remember what year it was. It was a couple years ago, when the same year Marisol was there. And a lady got up and spoke, and the lady had just hit 100,000 in income. And she was crying on the stage. She was so excited. Do you want to know why? She'd been in the company 18 years. And she had just hit 100,000. And afterwards, she goes, Jay, I remember you from day one. I went to the office, and you were actually in the same office as me. And you know what she said? She said, it didn't take me 18 years to make 100,000. It took me 17 and a half years to get my head out of my ass. Those are exact words. So my question for you, if you're trying to figure out how to build a team of recruiters, it can take you 17 years to figure it out. Or you can figure it out right now. Stand up if you've already decided, I'm not going to quit no matter what. Man, I hope you stand up. I'm not going to quit no matter how long it takes, I'm not quitting. All right, some of you haven't decided that yet. That's fine. Okay, sit down. So I have a question for you. If you're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to get there eventually, doesn't it make sense you might as well figure out how to do it now, instead of have that story about how it took you 17 and a half years to figure it out? And 17 and a half years to figure out how to work, okay? So that's number 1, a culture of recruiting. Number 2, a culture of licensing. So here's my focus with my team. Hey guys, you got to go get to 10 every month. And then you got to license at least 3 or 4. Now, let me get something clear real quick. We do not get paid to recruit. Yep. So if you're sitting in the room like, oh, this thing's all about recruiting. No, that's not the case. You can look all across the back of the room, and they're all product providers, because we only get paid if you sit with a client and put something in place. But I have a question for you. Who do you think is going to sit with more clients? The office with 150 licensed agents, or you by yourself? The best realtor in the world is not going to outsell a real estate team of 1,000 mediocre realtors. 1,000 mediocre realtors, even if they only sell 1 house a year, that's 1,000 homes a year. The best realtor in the world is not going to sell 1,000 homes. I have a friend of mine who's the best plastic surgeon in California. And she's really expensive. So if you've ever visited one, or you know of one, or you've ever researched, I'll just give you a point of reference. She's $35,000 for a booth job. 35 grand. Her clients are mainly celebrities, people you see on TV. If she's got to do a revision for a messed up job, 60 grand. But you want to know, when you pay her, she's going to get it right the first time. And that's her sales pitch. You know what she does? She has you come in. She paid $250,000 for this software. You tell her what you want. Whether it's facial, whatever it is. She takes a picture of you. her team uses the software and she goes, here's you now. Here's what you're asking for. This is what you'll look like. And here's a price tag. That's her sales pitch. And people look, and what do they get? They get a little bit of a vision of what their life could look like, right? What they feel like they're going to look like. They say, 35 grand and I fix all my insecurities. Sheesh, that's cheap. Sign me up. That's her sales pitch. But guess what? Guess what? She told me she can't scale at all. You want to know why? She could buy a building and then hire and recruit 100 other surgeons, and they could all work out of her building. But guess what? People aren't coming to sit with her surgeons. They're coming to sit with her. They're not coming for her colleague to do their surgery. They're coming for her to do the surgery. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So she cannot, she has what's called golden handcuffs on, which means that she's handcuffed to her job. She doesn't own a business. She's self-employed. By the way, last year she made $4.5 million. But guess what? She's got golden handcuffs. She's handcuffed, but they're made of gold. She can't get out of it. She can't scale. And there's only, how she can go from $4.5 million to $10 million? She can't. Because she can't triple her prices. People aren't going to pay any more than they pay now. She can't triple up the amount of surgery she does. She can only do so many surgeries a week. So guess what? She's stuck. She makes a lot of money, but she has no time. Her and her husband fight constantly. She never sees her 3-year-old. She's always at work. She can't travel, because the second she travels, guess what? Her income stops. She's stuck. Now, guess what? When I got here, I could make $1 million a year by writing a bunch of life insurance policies, and that's not my goal. That's not my goal. My whole life, my teachers told my parents I was lazy. And they were freaking right. So when I got here, I said, I will bust my butt for 10 to 15 years, and then I will be done for the rest of my life. So I'm 32, and averaging 70 to 90,000 a month in pretty much all overrides. My personal production is only 90,000 the last 12 months. You want to know where the 90,000 came from? My clients who died and I rolled their money into an annuity. That was all my production for them. And so it's pretty much $70,000 to $90,000 a month in just pure overrides. And I'm 33, so I go, all right, what will my life be at 35? What will my life be at 40? And God willing, right? And how do I figure that out? I just calculate licensed agents. So I go, if I got 350 licensed agents now, I take my income, I divide it by my licensed agents. So then what will my income be when I license 30 a month? That's another 360. So my income will double in 12 months. And then it'll go from 30 a month to probably averaging 50 a month or 60 new licenses a month. So if I'm doing 50 a month, by the second half of this year, that's another 400 to 3 to 400. By the time I get to like the first quarter of next year, what's my income like now? Okay, now scratch everything I just told you and tell me what you think about all day. Oh, I just got to figure out how to get a recruit. If I could just get one. I'm telling you, it's a culture. It's a culture, right? You got to create a culture. A culture of recruiting starts with you, and then you got to figure out how to get 5 to 10 every month, and then you just got to license 3 to 4 of them, and then get your team to do the same thing with you. Sitting with clients and helping clients is an automatic thing that will happen on its own, as long as you run some sort of a system, which I know you guys do. Like, think about it. If you had 50 appointments a month on your calendar, that's not a lot, by the way. For 10 years, I did 20 to 30 appointments a week, wrote 20 to 30 policies a month, and had 20 to 30,000 personal points every month for 10 years of my career. So you could do 50 part-time. That's 12 a week. How long does it take to run an appointment? An hour? If you're really slow, an hour and a half? So that means you work 18 hours a week. Is that considered full-time or part-time? At a job? Part-time. If you go to Walmart, 39 hours is part-time. 1 hour short of having to give you benefits, right? So 39 hours is part-time. So you can't be full-time, run 12 appointments a week. But you want to know why you might have 12 appointments a week? Because you don't have a culture of recruiting, therefore you don't have a culture of licensing, so you ain't got no one to train and you ain't got no appointments. But if you sat on 25 appointments a week, how many do you think you would close? If you suck, you'll close half. That's 12 clients a week. Let's pretend you don't even close half. Let's say you close 8. That's 8 clients a week. 8 out of 25. So 1 out of every 3 becomes your client. That's 30 clients a month. 30 clients a month in a bad market, 2,000 premium each client. That's 60,000 points. So you make 30 to 40 grand a month. So the problem is what? It's not that you don't have the skill set, it's that you probably don't have the right culture to fill your calendar. Okay, so if you're mission driven, guess what? You're not helping anybody if you're not on appointments. If you're like crusade driven, I want to go change the world, I want to help everybody, you have no appointments. If you're competition driven, those people usually win because usually the more competitive people are better recruiters because they fall in love with the game. So the competition-driven, money-making driven, I want to be rich and drive a Lamborghini and go party, that person's helping the world more than your good, soft, loving heart because you have an empty calendar. Does that make sense? All right, next, the culture of making money. You got to make money, you guys. You cannot, you know why I love what we do? You cannot make money without helping people. And you can't help people without making money. So I'll just paint a picture for you. This guy who passed away this morning, I asked my assistant to tell me how much he's paid into his, how much he paid, or how much I got paid for his policy. All right, so I wrote his policy. It was $1 million. It was $4,900 premium. I made $3,185 when I wrote his policy. And we're going to write a check to his sister for $1 million. So let's pretend you're like, well, you know, it's not all about the money. Okay, that's fine. Who came out on top? Me or the client? Unfortunately, he passed away. But his family now is going to collect $1 million. So that is $996,815 more than I got paid selling on the policy. So here's what I want you to remember while we talk about a culture of making money. Because no one wants to be on a losing team. Nobody wants to be on a losing team. But if you're focused on the right stuff, you will make money by doing the best job for the client. And the client will always make more money than you did by doing it for them. The guy has $47,000, I think, in his policy value already. So like, he's got 50 grand or so in his account, and I made $3,100 doing it. By the way, I was fired up for my $3,100 when I got that $3,100 check. That was a big deal for me. That was my whole month's bills at that time. So that was a huge win. Guess who comes out on top? The client does. The client will always make more money than you do, while they either in retirement or in passing it on to their family. But you cannot build a winning culture if everyone on the team is losing. So write this in the notes. The number one person that has to win on your team and has to be great on your team and has to make money on your team is you. You know how hard, you know why it's easy for Vicky to go make $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year? Because Teresa makes $2 million. So if the coach is good, there's a lot of room for the team. Does that make sense? If you're the best guy on your team and you're only making 50 grand, what's your team supposed to do? They're looking at you going, man, you're the best dude on here. You're making 50,000. Let me see if I can squeeze out 10. You should be making 10 grand a month. Does that make sense? So a culture of making money where people start getting paid. My team's cash flow right now, I think, is 3.1 million or something like that. And I'm trying to get my team paid every cycle. Every time checks come out, I look at it and see how much my team got paid. I remember when I was the only one getting paid though. So here's how you start a culture of making money. You start recruiting. These are all in order, by the way, of like a system flow. You recruit, you start licensing people, and you start going out and helping people and serving your community and helping your guys make money. Helping the ladies on your team make money. Helping them get paid. Finding ways to get your team paid. You want to know why? When your team gets paid, they will stay here. Like 9 years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, let's compete for the month. She's like, I don't have to compete with tenacity, with your team. I just got to compete with you. You're running a pyramid scheme. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? She's like, you are the only person in your whole team that makes money. Man, that hit me like a slap in the face. I started thinking about it. I was like, she's right. I am the only one making money. I need to fix that. Every single time I'm paying attention. So now I've got part-time. I have a guy on my team part-time last month. He made 19 grand. It was his second month in the business. 19,000 bucks. His second month. He's part-time. He's 26. His first month he made 7,400. His first 30 days with a license. Now I'm gonna tell you how he did it though. You know, number one, he's got a lot of credibility. All his family, they trust him. Number two, he's already had 7 personal recruits his first 2 months in the business. Now, you think that guy's going to quit on me? Making 27 grand his first 60 days? No, he's not going to quit. No freaking way. You got to get your team. You got to get your team making money. Does that make sense? A culture of making money. It's a good thing, you guys, to make money. Your client wants you to make money. You can't be in business to still take care of them next year if you're not making any money. All right. Next, we got a culture of growth. Okay, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you worked hard on yourself? When's the last time you were brutally honest with yourself? Some of us, we want to make 100 grand this year, but we have a $30,000 work ethic. We have a $50,000 mentality. Nothing in our life points to us making $100,000 this year. Okay? When's the last time you worked hard on yourself? I work extremely hard on myself. Last year I read 49 books in 2023. The year before that I read 36, and I'm very focused on improving me. If you want to get big, you've got to work on yourself. You got to figure out what's a culture like of growth in your team. So we do a tenacity book club. Every single month we got a book, self-development book that I put out to the team. I say, hey, this is the book we're reading this month. Read it. Work on yourself. Figure out how to get good. I started here broke. I came from nothing. I came from a broke family in a broke city. And I made it out. And then I worked really hard on me. And I've worked on improving me and fixing my flaws and getting better. Especially getting recruited young. I was 21. And so I thought like I was 19. So I worked on me. I worked on becoming a professional in the actual industry, learning the products, being good at them, knowing how to explain everything correctly. So when I sit with a client who's making more money than me, then if you're doing this right in the beginning, you're probably going to sit with clients that make more money than you. But they shouldn't look at you and go, I think I make more money than she does. So you got to work on you. You got to improve. A culture of growth, both in identity and in numbers. You can't just grow your numbers without growing your identity. If you're young and you're a party boy or you're a party girl, that's cool. But you better work on you. You got to grow. You got to improve. Because you want to know why? Everyone looks at you a certain way. Have you ever thought about how everybody looks at you? Do they look at you as a professional, or do they look at you as a party person? Do they look at you as a professional, or do they go, no, this dude just borrowed money from me last year? I'm not going to trust him with my money. By the way, if you're making good money at your job, that's cool. Life was good when I first got to 6 figures in the business. I was making $100,000 a year. I thought I was 23 years old. I said, I'm freaking doing it on my own time with no boss, living the dream. You want to know what's a lot cooler? Now making $100,000 a month. That's a lot cooler than making $100,000 a year. You know what the difference was? I'm not the same person I was 8 years ago, 9 years ago when I got to $100,000 a year. I've worked a lot on me. Okay, so a lot of times we chase the numbers and we don't self-improve. I promise you, if you work 10 times harder on yourself, business will get easy. Okay, a culture of competition. Are you guys competitive? I know you say that, but I don't know if you watch my Instagram, I have not posted anything from our Wealth Bowl yet, but you'll see what competitive looks like, because my team is extremely competitive. And it starts with coach. Coach has to be competitive to have a competitive team. If you want a team that's going to compete, you got to start competing. If you guys run trips, you got to qualify. If you watch the Hawaii boards, man, you got to qualify. You got to qualify for stuff like that. You got to be competitive. You got to win so there's room for your team to win if you want to build a big company. I'm very competitive, so I track the numbers. The last 6 months, we're top, I think we're number 2 in the whole company in net licenses. I'm tracking the numbers, trying to get better, trying to improve, trying to continue to get my guys competitive, to get my people on my team winning. Okay, now, let's go all the way back to the beginning. You're brand new, you're all by yourself, you just got your license, you've never even had a recruit. That's fine. This talk is for you. This is what you want to start enrolling into your daily thinking. How do I compete here? I pull up the numbers, I look at my category, I'm a training associate, I'm a nobody. All right, let me see what everyone's got going on. Who can I catch? Who's number 1 in the room? When you go to the gala tonight, you pay attention. You're not just there to make a fool out of yourself. You're there to pay attention. I study the numbers. I go, they're number 1. All right, how far ahead of me are they? Okay, they're actually not that far ahead. I can catch them. How do you catch them? Out-recruit them and out-license them. If you out-recruit and out-license, number 1, so you know who Rial Michaud is, right? So we were talking about him on the way here. So I was in the Hawaii trip, on the elite trip, and we were getting ready to go to the elite trip, and Levi Mboni was there, and Rial goes, Levi, what the heck do you know that I don't know? How did you pass me? I've been in this for like 20-something years. How did you pass me? And you know what Levi said? He said, I don't think I know anything that you don't know. But I bet you I out-licensed you. And they pulled up the numbers and he had more licenses. He passed them in licensing. If I'm passing them in licensing, you automatically pass them in cash flow. Does that make sense? He doesn't know anything else. Some of you in the room, you want to know everything before you do anything. That's why you're going to never do anything. I don't need to know anything. You want to know the one thing I need to know? If you got 100 licensed agents and I got 200, I'm going to make more money than you. Whether you're better than me or not at the business, I'm going to still make more money than you. Whether you can give a better speech than me or not, I'm going to still make more money than you. A culture of loyalty. Let me cover this real fast. I never, ever, ever forget what changed my life. You know what that was? That was my coach, Dan Charlier, and that was Ed Milet, who's my mentor, and Rich Dolly, who put this thing together, and WFG, who gave me a shot. I do not ever forget that. So some of us were loyal to our cash flow. Some of us were loyal to opportunity. If opportunity controls your loyalty, then you're not loyal. I'm 100% loyal to my coach, that's it. To the end of the world, no matter what. And I want to remind you that whatever seeds you plant out in your garden are going to harvest eventually, right? If you want a team that's ride or die, that's loyal to the end of the world, that has your back, that will run through walls for you, that will work hard for you, that will bust their butt for you, that will run to help you hit your ring, they'll run to help you hit your promotions, they'll run to help you qualify for Hawaii. You want your team to be like, come on, I got to do extra work so that I can help so-and-so hit their next promotion. If you want all that, you can't have all that if you are not all of that. You have to be that person. My team will run all day long for me because I declare my loyalty to my coach all the time. Everybody knows. Jay will be right next to Dan's side forever, no matter what. Because Dan's always had my back. Let me tell you something about loyalty, by the way. Loyalty doesn't only exist amongst perfection. What I mean is that Dan's not perfect. My coach is not perfect. There's a million things anybody can say about him. He's not perfect. But guess what? I'm not loyal to him because he's perfect. I'm loyal to him because I'm loyal to him as a person and what he's done for me, the time he's poured into me, the time he's spent with me, the belief he's put into me, right? The fact that he gave me a chance. If you're only loyal to a perfect coach, you're going to be in trouble because you're never going to have one. And you are never going to be a perfect coach. So as you build a team, you're going to make a bunch of mistakes. And if your team sees you be disloyal now, guess what they're going to do to you later? So I always show grace because I hope that someday someone will show the same grace to me because I'm not perfect. A culture of teamwork and a culture of winning. By the way, that's what competitive looks like. That's at our wealth bowl. That's our wealth bowl that just passed. Teamwork and winning, right? That's teamwork. That's our team doing a whoosh in the hallway. And a culture of winning. The girl on the bottom right 6 months ago couldn't pay her electric bill. When I stayed at her house, her electricity got shut off. The same night I stayed there, it was bad timing. And 6 months later, as an MD, she just got her ring. And took MVP at our wealth bowl amongst 700 people that were there. Golf score. But a culture of teamwork and a culture of winning. And it's easier to win as a team than it is on your own. So if you focus on recruiting and licensing and doing everything right, you guys, everything I just gave you, that's the recipe for building a culture for a team. I sat down and I said, what have we done? What have we done over the last 12 years that's gotten us to where we're at, where we could hit the elite trip 2 years in a row, even after promoting 5 SMDs this year. We still hit the elite trip in the base shop. I'll tell you what it is, that right there is a checklist for me of what we talk about, what we think about, and what we do on a daily basis. By the way, I don't care if you follow me or not. I didn't put that there. My assistant did. But if you want, I always get asked how to find my podcast, so that's where that is. It's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And if you have questions, the easiest way to ask is just to message me on Instagram. All right, I am done. Thank you.